Happening now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is due to arrive in Saudi Arabia to discuss a peaceful end to Russia's war in Ukraine. Rubio will meet with top Ukrainian officials to gauge Kyiv's willingness to engage in peace talks. And joining us now is Republican Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska. He sits on the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thanks for coming on and sharing your time with us. So I want to dive right into it. Ukrainian President Zelensky will also be in Saudi Arabia, but is not expected to attend these talks. Do you believe the White House is sidelining Zelensky in this peace process?
It's a terrible mistake not to have the Ukrainian leader in the talks. We've seen a history of this. I remember when the Trump administration was negotiating with the Taliban without the Afghan government, that really weakened the Afghan government thereafter. And we could go all the way back to 1938 when Neville Chamberlain negotiated with Adolf Hitler, and they carved up the Czechoslovakia territory and basically demanded the Czechoslovakian leader give in to their demands, Hitler's and Chamberlain, the leader of Great Britain at the time. And then a year later, Germany took the rest of Czechoslovakia and invaded Poland. Ukraine is our ally. They want to be part of the West. Russia is our adversary. And it's time that this administration gets this in their brain. They're treating Putin with velvet gloves, and they're being harsh to our allies. And I got to tell you, I'm hearing from all over the world, but particularly lots of Republicans in Omaha who do not like what they see.
So you believe, it sounds like, that the Trump administration is just being too conciliatory towards Russia right now and sort of walking away from its legacy of being the leader of the free world?
We are the leader of the free world, but right now, many countries are questioning, are we still the leader of the free world? We may be the most powerful country in the world. We were the leader of the free world, but it appears to many leaders and people all over, to include Republicans in Nebraska, that this administration is walking away from that legacy that was built by Ike Eisenhower and all these presidents, and really a capstone of Ronald Reagan, peace through strength, and building these close alliances. And we are undermining that legacy right now. I'm not interested in a foreign policy that is totally built on realism or transactionalism, where it's just, what do we have in it for us? I believe in having a foreign policy that's a mix of realism, protecting our country, and idealism, where we're the leaders standing for freedom, free markets, rule of law. And we gotta be clear-eyed, but also have moral clarity. Putin invaded Ukraine. He's murdered all of his political opponents. He tried to kill a previous Ukrainian prime minister. He's bombing cities. He's ramped up the bombing of cities since President Trump has been harsh towards President Zelensky. We got to see this. We're playing into the hands of Putin, and I think it's devastating for our national security and our foreign affairs for the years to come. So I'm very concerned.
Trump, for his part, he touts that he's a deal maker. He is predicting very big things in these Saudi talks this week. We know the Secretary of State Marco Rubio is landing there soon. Do you share that optimism at all?
Well, I do want peace. We want a fair peace. We want a just peace. But how do you have a just peace if you don't have Zelensky in the meetings? I just don't think it's right. We have a long history of seeing how you cut one party out and show favoritism to one side or the other. It don't work, but why are we showing favoritism to the thug, to the dictator, to the murderer? It doesn't make sense to me.
I also want to ask you about farmers. You sit on the House Agricultural Committee. This morning, there's these new tariffs from China on farm products coming from the U.S. They're now in effect. That includes 15% on chicken, wheat, corn, and cotton, 10% on produce, pork, beef, and dairy products. In your view, how damaging are these tariffs to American farmers? And we should note, you grew up on a farm, right?
Right. I grew up on a corn and soybean farm. We had some beef cattle. When we get in a trade war, the agriculture of America is what the other countries target. But I'm not one of these guys that is 100 or a 0. I understand why we're doing tariffs towards China. I hear all the time as a Republican or a congressman from Omaha where our steaks, Omaha beef or Nebraska beef, is being blocked out of Chinese ports. They put so many barriers in front of our products. So I would say to the president, or my advice would be, if we're gonna do tariffs, focus on our adversaries. And China is our adversary, so is Russia. But when it comes to our allies, I think we should be a little more diplomatic and work behind closed doors more and get these problems fixed. But China blocks out our products, and I see it every day. And I think you got to fight. It needs to be reciprocal. If they're blocking some of our stuff, then we need to do the same to build a fair trade. I like free trade. Free trade's good for consumers. But when one country's not being fair, then we have to match it. And so I'm generally supportive of what the president's trying to do towards China.
There's a lot going on in Capitol Hill. Also this week, the House Republicans have unveiled a stopgap bill aimed at averting a government shutdown. With such tight margins in the House and Senate, it's not clear if there are enough votes for passage. What do you think is going to happen? Are you prepared to vote for it?
Well, it's going to be a tight vote. I don't think we're going to get many Democrats. I hope we do, because we don't want a government shutdown. Now, about a week ago, before I went to church, I put on X, or did a tweet, whatever your lexicon is. I said, I will not vote for a clean CR because it is terrible for our military. It would be effectively a 3% cut to military, and they wouldn't be able to do any new starts. How can you say we're preparing to deter China, Russia, Iran if you're going to do a year-long CR? And within about 30 minutes, the White House called me and said they're going to make big, significant changes to the defense spending within this CR. So we're not seeing a clean CR. We're going to see a CR where you see defense spending augmented, but also allowing for new contracts and new starts. And so I will dialogue with Mike Rogers, the chairman, and other leaders on our Armed Services Committee to make sure it's adequate. But we can't do a year-long clean CR and say that we're deterring China and Russia. It would be a lie. But what I'm being told is that there have been fixes put on this CR that will help fix or help repair the damage to the DoD.
I want to, and we'll of course watch what you end up doing on that front, but very quickly, I got to ask you about this back and forth on X with the Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Elon Musk clashing with Poland's foreign minister over the use of Musk's Starlink satellite internet system in Ukraine. What did you think about that?
Well, I served in NATO. I worked with Polish officials, Polish military. I've been to Poland twice now. There's very few countries that are more pro-American than Poland. Maybe the Baltics are right in there as well. They want our presence, and they also know that the fall of Ukraine would be devastating to their national security, not only Poland, but the Baltic countries. And I thought, why is a White House official that's not even elected, it's not the president or the vice president, why is that person belittling the Polish foreign minister? It's not appropriate. It's not right. We need more discipline in the White House. Now, Poland's our friend. If you got heartburn with them, get them on the phone and talk to them. But stop the public bashing of our friends in a world that's, where we have real threats out there with China, Russia, and Iran. So I didn't like what I saw. I thought we could be better.
Congressman Don Bacon, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your time and your perspective on the news of the day. We appreciate it. Look forward to having you back on.